I'm going to call to order this regular City Commission meeting of Monday, October 6th, and all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. And we begin, as always, by acknowledging the land on which we gather as the territory of the Ottawa and Chippewa peoples who have stewarded this land throughout the generations. Thank you for your strength and resilience in protecting this land and inspiring us to uphold our responsibilities to do the same. And with that, we will start onto our agenda here. And I will go ahead and look to, actually, Sarah, I almost skipped roll call. For roll call, please.
Commissioner Anderson?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilson?
Here.
Commissioner Shaw?
Here.
Commissioner Stanley? Here. Commissioner Werner?
Here.
Mayor?
Yep, here. Okay, and now we'll move to the interim city manager for any announcements.
Great, thank you. Good evening. I've got just a few announcements for this week, the week of October 6th. Recently, team members from our Human Resources Department and the City Clerk's Office partnered with United Way of Northwest Michigan and the Traverse Area District Library and other organizations for our first ever volunteer fair, which was something that was sort of sparked the City Commission Ad Hoc Committee on appointments to our boards. And so that event connected different community members with local organizations and highlighted some opportunities for folks to give back and get involved. And we had, I believe, over 150 members of our community come to that volunteer fair in many organizations. And I just thank the city team and the many volunteers that choose to serve the city in various ways. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. Also, the traffic control order for 2A State Street is set to expire at the end of December. That's more of a formality, if you will, at this point, because there really aren't changes that could be made before the snow flies to really convert it back to one way, if that were even the desire. But with that said, the DDA is currently gathering feedback from downtown businesses and further analysis is ongoing. The city's design team is going to present me with a list of pros and cons regarding making the two-way configuration permanent. And I anticipate discussion on this topic at the City Commission's December 1st regular meeting. And just for anyone who wants to give input on that, they can give comments and suggestions specifically to the DDA by email at info@downtowntc.com. And of course, I always welcome direct input as well. Beginning today, October 6th, to ensure consistency across city departments housed at the Governmental Center, the customer service hours at city offices are now going to be Monday through Thursday from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. and Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. This also reflects that at the end of the day, Monday through Thursday, that last half hour, we really didn't see much customer traffic, and this helps accommodate different departments that start at different times of the day. But customer needs outside of these regular business hours will certainly be made available by appointment. And then for after-hour services, of course, customers can use the red drop box located at the Governmental Center or make payments online. And then the fall loose leaf pickup will begin on Monday, October 20th in city neighborhoods, starting on the west side and moving eastward over 5 to 7 weekdays, and crews will return to the west side to continue to repeat that process as we're able to. So hard to believe we're already talking about that. And that is all from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now we'll go to announcements from the interim city clerk. Sarah, go ahead.
Thank you. So meetings scheduled this week are the Election Commission will meet Tuesday, October 7th at noon here in the chambers. The Complete Streets Ad Hoc Committee will meet Tuesday, October 7th at 4 p.m. in the committee room. And the Planning Commission will meet October 7th again at 6 p.m. in the chambers here. And tagging off Benjamin's plug about volunteers to our boards, we're still looking for people. Please get your app into the city clerk's office. And then I would just like to remind commissioners, staff, and members of the public to speak directly into microphones so those watching at home, and the recording of this meeting is easily heard. Thank you.
And Sarah, would you mind just sharing with folks the status of absentee ballots being mailed? Sorry, I didn't mention that.
Yes, that thing,
Yeah.
absentee
Thanks.
ballots. We did mail out approximately 4,500 absentee ballots on September 25th, so they should have hit your mailboxes. There's still time to request one. You can get an application, drop it off at our office, and we can give you your absentee ballot.
Thank you so much. All right, and with that, we do have a couple of proclamations today, so I'm going to start. Amy Robbins could join us up there. Thank you, and everybody, you're welcome to join us up at the podium. All right. All right, I've got it, and Amy, one of our own, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for doing this.
And so I'll have to just read a couple things real quick to let everybody know about you, and then you'll have a chance to talk too. So we'll give you a mic. Great. Okay. It's open mic night. Okay, we'll let you be the judge. So I'm here to read the proclamation declaring Down Syndrome Awareness Month, October 2025. Whereas Down syndrome is the most common genetic birth defect associated with intellectual and developmental delays affecting 5,000 to 6,000 babies, approximately 1 in every 700 to 800 births a year from all ethnic and societal backgrounds in the United States. And whereas individuals with Down syndrome are born with an extra copy of chromosome 21, resulting in intellectual and developmental delays, characteristic physical features, and an increased risk for certain medical conditions, and whereas little as 50 years ago, people with Down syndrome were stigmatized or, all too frequently, institutionalized. Now, happily, they are benefiting from important advances in research, education, and healthcare. And whereas over the past 5 decades, scientists have applied the technology of molecular genetics and other sciences to the study of Down syndrome. Researchers have isolated a gene or combination of genes on chromosome 21 that have a relationship to the development of intelligence and physical disorders associated with Down syndrome. They have also determined there's a relationship between Down syndrome and Alzheimer's disease. And whereas there is a wide variation in mental abilities, behavior, and physical development in individuals with Down syndrome. However, individuals with Down syndrome benefit from loving homes, early intervention, special education, mainstreaming, appropriate medical care, and positive public attitudes, all made possible through the efforts of researchers, service providers, physicians, teachers, and parent support groups. In addition, governmental agencies have worked in concert with private organizations like National Down Syndrome Congress and the National Down Syndrome Society to help those affected by this congenital disorder. And whereas individuals with Down syndrome possess a wide range of abilities, talents, and contributions, and are active participants in educational, occupational, social, and recreational circles, enriching our communities with their unique perspectives and strengths. And whereas Down syndrome, whereas people with Down syndrome can lead fulfilling lives, including attending school, pursuing higher education, engaging in meaningful employment, and participating in recreational activities just as their peers without disabilities. And whereas families, caregivers, and support networks play a crucial role in empowering individuals with Down syndrome to reach their full potential, fostering inclusion, acceptance, and the opportunity to live as independent, self-determined, and valued members of society. And whereas while medical advancements and interventions have resulted in dramatic improvements in the lifespan and potential of those who are affected, continued research is needed to do better, to better understand the physiology. Thank you. That one got me. Oh, good. Thank you. It wasn't just me. Of Down syndrome, and to develop new clinical and behavioral treatments. And whereas despite progress, there is still much work to be done regarding the rights to equity, inclusion, education, medical care, research, and support for people with Down syndrome in the United States and abroad. And whereas people with Down syndrome possess a wide range of abilities and are active participants in their educational, occupational, social, and recreational circles of our communities. And whereas through public awareness, the City of Traverse City supports the initiatives of organizations working to ensure people with Down syndrome and other intellectual and developmental disabilities have adequate services, are valued by society, and can lead fulfilling and productive lives in our community. Whereas during this month, the City of Traverse City joins with Down Syndrome Association of Northwest Michigan, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and the Down syndrome community to support equal opportunity to promote greater understanding of Down syndrome and the right to achieve the universally desired goal of self-fulfillment, pride in individual achievement, inclusion in community, and reaching one's fullest potential. Therefore, I, Amy Shamrow, Mayor of the City of Traverse City, do hereby proclaim October 2025 as Down Syndrome Awareness Month in Traverse City. Yay. Well, thank you, Amy, Amy, for being here, and I'm going to let you say a few words. So, here you are.
Well, thank you very much. This is obviously very near and dear to my heart, as this is my daughter, our little entertainment
Kylie
tonight.
DeBrave. Sorry.
I've been on the board of the Down Syndrome Association almost since I moved here to Traverse City. I was walking through Myers one day, and a lady popped over from the aisle before, and she goes, I thought you had someone with Down syndrome with you. We need you. And I'm like, okay, for what? And I got involved, and I think it's been 8 years now that I've been the president, because nobody else will step up. But I need to find out more about this volunteer thing that they did, because we always need volunteers, and it's one of the things that we have very few that take care of all of our stuff for our association, to help our people be involved in the community and do the things that they like to do, and obviously become contributing members for us. So, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it. You are. Thank you. Yes.
That's okay. It's all good. But thank you for joining us up here, and hopefully now you've got a free plug here, so we'll get some volunteers from you.
Awesome.
Yes.
That'd be great. Okay. Thank you. Come on, Toots. Yes, you can say hi, Ben.
Hi, Ben.
Hi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We need that enthusiasm throughout every meeting.
No, I was not entertained.
And we do have one more proclamation, and we're recognizing Public Power Week. So we have Brandy Ekron from Traverse City Light and Power to join us for this one. Welcome, Brandy, as an 8-year member of the board. It's nice to see you up here for this. So we're recognizing Public Power Week, which is October 5th through 11th, 2025. Whereas Public Power Week is a national celebration of more than 2,000 locally owned, not-for-profit electrical utilities that collectively serve 49 million Americans, highlighting the value of community-based decision-making. Whereas Traverse City is served by Traverse City Light and Power, a community-owned utility established in 1912 and governed by a board appointed by the City Commission, reflecting the principle of local accountability in public power. Whereas through community ownership, Public Power ensures that decisions about essential electrical and broadband services are made in the best interest of residents, keeping resources and revenues aligned with the values of Traverse City. Whereas the benefit of public power includes affordability, reliability, transparency, and responsiveness, which strengthen the economic and social well-being of our city. Now, therefore, be it resolved, Mayor Amy Sharmo, Mayor of City of Traverse City, do hereby proclaim October 5th through 11th, 2025 as Public Power Week, and join Traverse City Light and Power and communities across the nation in celebrating the benefits of public power and the value of local ownership in serving the public good. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause seal of Traverse City to be affixed to this day, the 6th of October, 2025. That's a new one at the end there. So you've got that special gravitas added there to it, and the bell even. So I'll let you say a few words.
All right. Well, thank you. On behalf of the board and the employees of Traverse City Light and Power, I'm really honored to receive this proclamation. This is a very important, I would say, holiday week for us, predominantly because, well, one, it's what we're all about. There's a number of activities going on through the week, increased engagement with the community, our own celebration, and opportunity to recognize also the internal strengths of the employees. But one of the reasons why this topic is obviously so relevant is because there's so much discussion about energy independence and being able to value local decision making and being able to make certain that our profits, or rather our earnings, go back into our rate base. And so we're really excited about that. And not many communities, actually many communities, don't even have this as an opportunity. They're working to have their own utility. And so I'm proud to receive this on behalf of Traverse City Light and Power and be here with you. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you to all of you there and at Traverse City Light and Power employees, too.
Thank you.
Okay, back to the agenda here, as soon as I can wake my computer up. Okay, now we will move on to the consent calendar, so we'll hand that back over to Sarah. I'm saying it slowly because she just got
I
back
need to
her
log
seat.
back in.
All right.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed therefrom and placed elsewhere on the agenda for individual consideration by the commission. Such requests will be automatically respected. If an item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted in parentheses on the agenda is approved by a single commission action adopting the consent calendar. 1, consideration of approving the minutes of the September 15th, 2025 and September 22nd, 2025 meetings of the City Commission. Approval recommended. 2, consideration of adopting the annual resolution certifying that the city intends to implement the state prescribed limits on healthcare plans as required by Michigan statute. Adoption recommended. 3, consideration of adopting to make permanent traffic control order 725, which provides for a restricted 2-hour time limit on Depot View Drive. Approval recommended. 4, consideration of authorizing the issuance of a new redevelopment district liquor license with Class C privileges with dance entertainment, extended hours, Sunday sales permits, AM permits, and authorizing the interim city clerk to issue such registration. Adoption and approval recommended. 5, consideration of authorizing a new banquet facility permit with Sunday sales AM, PM, and outdoor service area to Nanbot Farm LLC at 415 Cass Street for private events, and authorizing the interim city clerk to issue the related registration. Adoption and approval recommended. 6, consideration of authorizing a confirming purchase order for unleaded fuel and diesel fuel for city operational use. Approval recommended. 7, consideration of authorizing a 3-year purchase order for spring and fall washdown of the Larry C. Hardy parking structure and the Old Town parking structure. Approval recommended. 8, consideration of authorizing an agreement for the rehabilitation of low service pump number 4 and high service pump number 5 at the water treatment plant. Approval recommended. 9, consideration of authorizing an amendment to the legal service agreement in connection with the June 2024 cyber incident, which would increase the not to exceed cost by $3,500 as recommended by the city attorney as required by the city charter. Approval recommended. 10, consideration of authorizing amendment of an out-of-scope agreement for the replacement of an isolation valve in connection with the previously authorized upgrade of 2 sewer lift stations. Approval recommended. 11, consideration of waiving the competitive bidding process and authorizing a 3-year extension to the consulting agreement for assistance in complying with the Michigan Lead and Copper Rule. Approval recommended. 12, consideration of authorizing a 2-year agreement for telecommunication systems. Approval recommended. 13, consideration of accepting sidewalk easements in connection to various projects. Approval recommended.
Thank you for that, Sarah. Would any commissioner like to remove an item from the consent calendar? Mitch
Item 6.
and Jackie?
Number 4, please.
Okay. Any others? Seeing none, would any member of the public like to remove any item other than 6 or 4? Okay. Bringing it back, I would take a motion.
I move that we accept the consent calendar as amended.
I second.
Thank you, Commissioners Treadwell and Anderson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we'll start with item number 6. This was the authorizing purchase order for unleaded fuel. Mitch, you had this pulled?
Yes. I see it's not a new thing, but we have switched to not actually going out for bid for this. But I am very surprised that this is roughly twice the price that we had been paying. Yes, fuel prices do fluctuate, but bulk orders are consistently cheaper than retail gasoline, and to be paying $4.40 a gallon is a bit surprising to me. Do we have a reason for that?
Well, I can say that it's been the process for several years, and we bring this to the City Commission, I believe, at the beginning of every calendar year to have a confirming purchase order process, and that's because of the nature of fuel purchases. I can get into that more if you'd like, but I can tell you that quotes are obtained for all fuel purchases, and that's my understanding that that took place in this instance. So I'm not sure what you
But,
mean
like,
by not getting bids.
Our last purchase order from 2 months ago, start of August, was the same amount of fuel for $21,912. So this being more than twice as much when retail gasoline has increased, but not a commensurate amount, seems
I can
unusual.
go back to the information we have. It would surprise me if it's twice as much,
Yes.
but okay. I mean, I will tell you that we're at the point that, again, consistent with the process that the City Commission has approved, this order has already been placed. We have to write a check, and we're at a point where the City Commission, we need approval to pay for the fuel that we purchased. I'd be happy to get some more information for you. Is there something?
I'm sorry, it appears the August one was for unleaded fuel only. This is for both diesel and unleaded.
Okay,
Right.
so two trucks.
So 2 different fuels.
Thank you.
That's
That
why
explains
double
it.
the cost.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Yeah, so it's not double the cost, it's
Yes.
twice as much fuel that we're purchasing.
It ju-
Thank
I
you.
just saw the 9,999 gallons, and
Yeah.
All right.
thank you for the clarification.
Do we have other questions or a motion?
I'll make the motion that the interim city manager be authorized to issue a purchase order to Scotland Oil Company, Inc. for unleaded fuel and diesel fuel in the amount not to exceed $44,922.39 with funds available in the garage fund.
Support.
Thank you. Oops, sorry, I'm writing and trying to talk and not doing well. Thank you, Commissioner Stanley and Warner. All right, any other discussion on this? Any public comment on this item? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? All right, motion passes. And now item number 4, Commissioner Anderson, you had this one pulled about the
Yes,
permit?
I'm just in search of a little bit of context information. First, congratulations to Heart and Soul. I'm an enthusiastic patron, and congratulations on moving into bricks and mortar. I wondered in terms of the extended operating hours, can anyone give me some information about approximately how many other liquor licensed establishments operate with extended hours and the reasoning behind those extensions?
I'm not sure how many per licenses that we have out there that has the extended permit, and actually, there was a typo in the consideration. We're not asking to issue that permit because the DDA, or the redevelopment liquor licenses, can only operate until midnight.
Right, right,
So
right.
that's a
yeah.
state permit, but it's not a local one that we can
Then
issue
extended
because of the
services
typo.
for the
Hold on,
rest of the
Mitch,
food.
hold on, please.
Well, then never mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so that answered your question then?
It did answer my question.
Okay, do we have other questions, or we take a motion? Mitch?
I'd just like to say, as somebody that is currently working, I'll be working there tonight, 100 feet from that location, I am glad that there will be more opportunities for later night food service. We still have a menu for J&S Hamburg nailed to the wall, but they aren't open till 3 a.m. like they used to always be.
So again, do we have any questions or motion? Go ahead, Jackie.
I'm happy to move that we recommend the commission approve the issuance of a new redevelopment district liquor license with Class C privileges with dance entertainment, Sunday sales PM permits, and authorize the interim city clerk to issue such registration.
Support.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners Anderson and Treadwell. Any other comments on this?
I was just looking to make sure that the city clerk was okay with that.
Yes, I got that. We're good. Thank you.
All right, then if that, any public comment on this item? Yeah, go ahead. Yep, you're good.
Hi, and thank you very much. I guess I'm just looking for a clarification. So it means I can't serve food also after midnight. Is that part of what the DDA liquor license restricts?
No, you can, I see Sarah pointing to me, so I
Yeah,
thought you
yeah,
were.
yeah,
Okay.
yes.
The restriction on redevelopment liquor license is just that you can't serve alcohol
Okay.
after midnight, between midnight and 7 a.m.
Okay.
It has no restriction on food.
Excellent. Yeah,
All right.
that clarifies so much. Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other public comment on this item? Go ahead.
Justin Reed. As a person who lives in the Commons, I've seen the Heart and Soul food truck. They have really good food, and they are an awesome business. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission. Any final comment? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. I too am very enthusiastic. I was trying to be a very neutral chair up here, but I'm very excited about this as well. All right, well, we'll now move on to our old business, and we're going to start with an update from LSI on our IRA funding. So in that alphabet soup there, we'll have that explained a little bit more detail.
And I'll just say a quick couple of things. I see the Deputy City Manager, Deb Allen's at the podium. She's got a few things to say, and she'll introduce the folks from LSI. And Deb manages our grant programs, if you will, all grant applications and such for the city. But a point I really wanted to make that is probably not a surprise to anyone up here, but with respect to federal grant programs, it is exceedingly erratic. And that's not to express any lack of appreciation for the grants that we do get, but the process changes constantly, unlike anything I've ever seen before when it comes to federal grants. And so I just wanted to mention that, and I'll turn the rest over to Deb. Thank you.
Well, good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, and our community guests. If you remember, we went into the contract with LSI, did a extensive RSVP, request for
RFP.
proposal. Ooh, RSVPs. Request for proposals went out last year, and we had 12 different entities, and we were very excited to move forward with LSI. And at the time that we were moving the grants forward, one of the key components of this process was to make sure that we were seeking out first the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA components as they relate to energy efficiency and energy reduction. So with us today, we have Tanisa Wright and also Samuel Beasley, who are principals with LSI. And they're basically going to talk a little bit about where we have been, where we are now. We're about a year into our process with LSI. We have a very good process that I think Tanisa is going to speak to. But we've certainly had our challenges as it relates to applying for the federal grant. So I'm going to turn it over to Tanisa and to Samuel, and they can share a little bit more with the commission. Can't hear you, Tanisa. Hang on a second.
Hold on, we're having some sound issues.
Yeah, there we go.
No, classic. I didn't unmute myself. So still living in 2020, I guess. But hello and good evening. My name is Tanisa Wright, as Deb said. I'm a senior engagement lead here at LSI, and we're super excited to be with you. As she also mentioned, we have Sam Beasley, our Chief Operating Officer, who will be speaking to some of the federal happenings that have been going on lately. So we just wanted to take a little bit of your time, as Deb said, to talk about where we've been, where we're going, and then some strategic recommendations moving forward. So if at any point you have any questions, feel free to stop us and let us know. Deb, should I just go ahead and share my screen?
That would be great. Thank you.
Perfect.
Looks good.
Okay, you guys can see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Okay. So I'm just going to hop right in. I think it went off with my headphones, so I'm just going to pull those out. So we wanted to start by just highlighting the contract requirements, the 5 key areas that we have been working on through this year, and that being grant research, grant analysis and assessment, coordination and collaboration, grant writing, and then project support and compliance. So any post-award performance that is needed. So with these top 5 contract requirements, the thing that Deb and I really started and had a focus on was process and procedure. So what's going to be the best for the city moving forward? And so we put a process and procedures in place to make it more efficient and fluent in the work that we're doing for the county. So this includes approval templates. So any grant that the city wants to go after, the department has to get that approved, and then it moves on through multiple approval processes per the city's procedures. So we set together an approval process with approval templates. From there, we also created a timeline and checklist. So we have templates whenever we start a grant writing process and have a kickoff with the department that we write the grant with. We have a calendar timeline that takes us step-by-step through the process of writing an application and any post-award performance work, as well as a checklist for each grant. So anything that is required in that grant is also on our checklist, which helps our timeline. So from there, we also have a tracking sheet. So any grant that we look at or apply for or are interested in, we track that and we say, you know, how far do we want to move in this process and where do we want to take this in the process? And then we're able to say, okay, we only wanted to review it as far as deciding if we want to move forward. And we decided not to move forward with it because of X, Y, and Z. So we have a full list of opportunities that we work with your team on. From there, Deb and I also set up a meeting cadence. So Deb and I meet every month with our research strategists to go over what we call an opportunity pipeline. And that opportunity pipeline is a list of grant opportunities that we think are a strategic fit with the initiatives that the city has brought forward to us. Some of those initiatives, starting with carbon neutrality, environmental initiatives, housing, transportation, parks and recreation, as well as public safety. So that was kind of our liftoff area into looking for grant opportunities, specifically targeting those IRA and IIJA opportunities while providing opportunities outside of those so that the city knows what available funding opportunities there are. So with that, we wanted to move over to what we've done year to date. And you'll see here, there's going to be a few different areas that we've gone, which is really nice to give you a comprehensive look at how the process actually works. So we've had a couple grants that we have submitted an LOI or a letter of intent that unfortunately, as we will speak to, the feds end up pulling that grant opportunity. So we didn't get to move any further after our submission of the LOI. There is a grant that we went after that we started working on, but as we were pulling the project together and the timeline that was available, the project wasn't really viable for what we were going for. So we marked that as a no-go. So that's an example of one in the process that didn't fully go through. Another one, we had a partnering agency with Wade Trim. So that's a different type of opportunity that we would go after. And then we also had an opportunity, this one at the bottom, which was a non-IRA IIJA grant that we were submitted, but unfortunately not awarded. And this was to support the essential facility enhancements. So that's a brief overview of our grant work that we've done year to date. And then I'm going to turn it over to Sam to give you a little bit of a federal update and how that impacts the grants that we've already submitted and kind of how that impacts the work that we're doing with you guys moving forward.
Good evening, everybody. I appreciate your time today. I feel like I've been perfectly teed up by the gentleman's comment early on as we were getting started here. The reality is that the federal environment is not just uncertain, but it's also dynamic. As you look at, for example, the government shutdown, what we expect to see is in the next few weeks, when that turns itself around, we should start to see a flood of grants opportunities come through. And what that's going to force us to do as a partnership is respond quickly to those requests as they come out. Historically, we may have seen grant applications come out that gave us, say, a month or so to contemplate, to strategize around, and then write. As we get down the path here, we may find ourselves having to coordinate and respond more rapidly to those grants as they come out. The other thing to contemplate as we look at IRA and IIJA grants in particular is those particular grants are coming under heavy scrutiny by the administration. There's still opportunities there for Traverse City, but it may be appropriate or may make a lot of sense to diversify the areas in which we're looking to support your infrastructure place. So I guess just in summary, you know, we've got to look at the current environment, not just as sort of uncertain, but also provides us an opportunity to take a step back, right? Look at our strategy and find alternative options for funding that aren't necessarily tied to the federal space. Again, certainly the federal space needs to be part of that plan, but we should be looking to sort of broaden our view. And that's what we see ourselves as being is your strategic partner to help you look for those spaces, to bring to you opportunities that maybe are just outside of the natural fits that you might be looking for. We still want to serve your needs and want to bring to you what it is you're requesting. And we will do that, but we also want to make sure that we're giving you the best opportunity to find funding and to win. Um, that was a lot of information. I apologize for maybe speaking a little too quickly. Does anybody have any questions around that or thoughts?
If I may, Samuel and Tanisa, I just want to mention that, Tanisa mentioned early on about the process that we established, and in a normal grant writing process, that would be great. I mean, you have all the approvals and everything kind of teed up ahead of time. What we're finding is that by the time the pipeline is generated, which LSI does a great job of providing us with, probably, if you've seen some of the reports, I think I haven't sent one out most recently, but we get them every month, and so there's probably anywhere from, I'd say, 10 to 20 different grant opportunities that are available. I send that out to the staff, for the staff to see within their departments, is there something that's related to engineering, to any of our streets projects or homelessness or any of those other things. And what happens is then I get a response back, and by the time we are ready, and I keep on, everyone is really good about responding back, but by the time we get a response, we literally have less than 2 weeks to get a grant application together. So it is just unprecedented, the time frame that we're seeing. And then we go through that exercise, and then sometimes we find out that the dollars have been pulled, which was the case in several of the grant applications that we've submitted. So the intent of sharing this information with you today is to say we want to accomplish what the board has directed the team to do, but we also want to make sure that we're, one, that we are utilizing all the resources that are available to us, and maybe there is an opportunity to look at expanding the scope that we currently have. And then the other component of this, from the grant perspective, is that we make sure that we're utilizing all of these processes to find the most essential funding opportunities. One of them that Tanisa mentioned happened to do with the, and Tanisa, help me out with the name on that. It was the Historic Preservation Grant application that was through a private foundation. We applied for almost $750,000 to help with our Carnegie and our Con Foster buildings that are in dire need of assistance. Unfortunately, we got down to the last minute, and again, found out that the funding, we were not eligible for the funding. So it's just a really interesting and challenging climate, trying to pull all these things together in a very, very short window of time.
Do we have?
And if you don't mind, maybe I'll dovetail into that. Say one of the other things that you might be seeing in the news is that even after federal grants are being awarded, in some cases those that funding is being pulled back as well. So it's just a very, as we said, it's a very dynamic space, and so looking to sort of shore up your strategy is what we're hoping to provide.
Let me just say one last key component of this is that we use the ARPA funds to be able to initiate this grant application. And we have until December of 2026 to fully execute the grant dollars. After that point, we will have to pay back any of the unspent ARPA funds. So again, it does make a case if at some point the board would consider allowing us to expand the use of those grant dollars.
And we'll open for questions, but I think what I'll have you do, because of the oddness always of using Zoom, is, Deb, if you don't mind, you'll call on everybody and kind of help facilitate the Zoom conversation so that there's not 6 voices trying to talk at the same time. Do we have questions from the commission? Go ahead, Heather.
How much ARPA funds do we have left?
I think there's approximately $30,000 still to be utilized.
I have one more
Sure,
question.
please.
So LSI really only helps with federal grants, not like state grants, like the neighborhood road fund, the funds that have just been passed in the state budget, they can't help with that?
They have the capacity to help us. We just don't have the authorization because the scope was very
And where does the
specific
authorization
from
come
the
Okay.
commission.
That's on the agenda tonight, so.
The hope
Tim.
is even to have their scope expanded to not just state organizations, but also private philanthropic
Absolutely.
entities as well.
Foundations are still, private foundations are still offering some of these grant opportunities. And again, and I think everyone knows we don't currently have a grant writer on staff. So it makes it challenging. Again, we use a wide variety. In the past, we've used a wide variety of grant writers for a variety of our different grants. So this is another
quiver, if you will, or arrow in our quiver to help to make sure we find these resources available. Commissioner Anderson?
Does LSI have any insights for us on the health of the private grant writing, grant making industry? What is the outlook? How significant is it in size?
Denise, I don't know if you've heard that, but it's basically what is the size and the potential for the private funding resources?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just going to move to my next slide since it plays into this and we can go over it as needed, but all of these have been touched on. The size of the foundation grants and what we're seeing with most of our clients is that their focus is on foundation and state grants. And as you can see with the historic preservation grants, those grants can range anywhere from $5,000 to up to, $750,000. So some of them even up to $1 million. So we're not seeing any lack of funding available. I think that's the biggest thing, is that there is so much funding available, and the foundation grants are always going to be there because they get their money away from any government funded agency or operation. And so their money is always ongoing. They typically have quarterly application processes. And so there's always an opportunity to continue to apply for them, which is really nice. So with the strategy there is, hey, we have this project, we're not ready to submit this quarter, let's reach out to the foundation. We work with them in tandem to say, hey, does our project make sense here? And then they kind of direct us, this is the way I would go, or this is the way I would go. So oftentimes it's almost a stronger application than the federal open up, shut down very quickly. So that money is always going to be available and going to be there. Very different than like a federal roller coaster that we're riding.
I will say that for private foundations, they're mandated to give at least 3% of their total holdings away each year. So it does perpetuate the opportunities.
Yeah, and to clarify, because I think it was covered, but kind of part of this larger conversation, but to go back to the beginning of this, the reason why we're having this conversation is because when we passed the motion to fund this initially, we said focus on IRA, IIJA, that's why we're getting this presentation of what else is out there, the lower hanging fruit, the private foundations and everything like that. So we just have to, at the end of the day, the motion, just because not everybody can see it at home, is to expand our scope with LSI to look for more monies. So wherever they may be available.
And frankly, money that we think we have even a decent chance of getting, whereas at the federal level, we don't think that at all, or hardly at all.
Do we have other?
I think to add to that point, I think federal opportunities, like you guys still have great projects that align with their funding opportunities. It's just that it's so uncertain. But you take examples like this historic preservation grant, the risk is so low and the return on investment is so high. Like if you price out technically how much that grant took our team to write versus a federal grant, it's much lower, and you are still getting a massive amount of money for that. So the opportunities that are sitting out there are very big for the city. It's just moving to that different approach of how do we look at funding opportunities that are available in the current time.
I guess this is a comment/question, though. We've been very fortunate as a community, and I still hope that we will be. As you mentioned, we have really good projects. Our staff works on some really innovative ideas. But we have been very fortunate to get a lot of state and federal grants over the last 10, 15 years. And we do know that those are in flux, let's just say, right now. But that's the same for a lot of communities. So while there is all this money in private foundations, we're not the only ones sniffing around on those pots of money now. So they are well funded, but I'm guessing they're going to be more competitive in the coming couple of years as well.
I would say yes and no. What we're seeing now is we have a lot of people like asking us to apply for opportunities because not enough people are applying for them.
That's right.
Everyone's kind of scared of what's going on. And so they're just like sending opportunities being like, hey, we have funding available. Would you be interested in applying? So a few opportunities that we're working on with different clients have been asks from these different agencies. So right now we're not seeing that, but I could see that trending in the future, seeing how quickly people catch on to that. But right now it's just nobody's looking there because everyone's a little bit too afraid to do so.
So the iron is hot right now. That's very good to hear.
Yes, yes.
Do we have other questions while we have our team assembled here? Okay. Did we let you finish your presentation, or did you, do we feel like
Yes,
you've
I
covered
think
it? Great.
I think we covered all of these areas. I just wanted to give a really huge shout out to the commission. Deb has been excellent to work with. She's consistently, this last one, evaluating success and challenges. Her and I are currently working together to identify areas where we can continue to improve. And she's been a great asset to the team and wonderful to work with. So just a shout out to the commission on her behalf. She's a wonderful person to represent your team.
Well, thank you for that. We all like to hear good feedback about the staff. Thank you.
Thanks, Denise.
Yes.
So I'm going to bring it to the commission now. Do you have further questions about what next steps would be? Do we want to have there's a suggested motion. Where would you all like to proceed from here? Tim?
I'll make a motion that the mayor and interim city clerk execute an amendment to the agreement with LSI Business Development, Inc. for grant writing services, with such agreement subject to approval as to its substance by the interim city manager and its form by the city attorney, with the agreement to expand the scope of the use of funds to support additional grant funding opportunities, including private foundation and state funding levels.
Second.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Warner and Commissioner Shaw. Any further comments on that? Looks like we're pretty in agreement here. Any public comment on this item?
Good evening. This is Richard Robbins from the Grand Traverse Safe Streets Alliance, representing them. Excellent presentation. I think grants are very important. We're very interested in multimodal infrastructure funding, which is going to be important. As an example, the Walton Foundation basically built Bentonville, Arkansas's non-motorized or multimodal transportation infrastructure. There's many case studies on the Walton Foundation. The key thing, and the Walton Foundation also is a philanthropic organization that's looking for communities to invest in their non-multimodal infrastructure. The key thing with philanthropic funding is relationships, is whether or not you have, it's a different animal. There are relationships that need to be in place in order to optimize your grant opportunities. And so I guess the question is has the city kind of evaluated LSI's relationships in the philanthropic space to ensure that they have they have the ability to be able to put us at the top of the list. Because frankly, philanthropic funding, it's sales, guys. It's a real sales job. And now I know there's criteria, but relationships play a much larger role. So not saying that's, I have no, I'd just like to understand kind of LSI's relationship capabilities in the philanthropic space to make, I think, everyone feel comfortable is what a question I would ask. But anyway.
Thank you.
Thank
sir.
you.
Any other public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back. Did you want to make any comment on that?
I think just Mr. Robbins, if you want to connect with Ms. Allen, she can address your question. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the commission? Seeing none, I'll call the vote then. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, everyone from LSI, for joining us. We'll take a brief tech moment here so Sarah can get us back to our regularly scheduled analog meeting.
Analog.
Okay. So our next item of old business is the implementation policy. Commissioner Stanley and I joined in requesting that be brought back, and so we'll have, I don't know if Benjamin or Lauren just wants to do a quick introduction of where we're at. Go right ahead, thank you.
I can. So this is just, like the mayor said, brought back by Commissioner Stanley and the mayor. I tried to put some clarification to the questions that were asked at the end of the last meeting, so I hope that was helpful. And then just a question that Commissioner Stanley asked me right before this meeting started, and I was able to look at it. The language in this proposed policy regarding bringing questions back again is exactly the same as what is in the implementation policy for the charter amendment for tall buildings. So that answers your question, I think, Commissioner Stanley. And I actually recall with the previous policy, originally as proposed, there was language in that policy that would have made any vote perpetual on a building, and that was taken out at the time because it was felt that that was not the correct way to do it. So that's all that I have on this, unless there are questions.
Go ahead, Commissioner Stanley.
And just so that we're clear, the implementation policy for the tall buildings charter amendment went into place, I'm looking at April 3rd of 2017 was the date that I saw on that. So it's been roughly 8 years that that has been in place. And so, and you were saying that with that charter amendment, there was initially in the implementation policy language around restricting the number of attempts, but that was taken out?
Yes.
And was there anything restricting the charter amendment as put forward by the petitioners to including limits to bites of the apple in their charter amendment?
In the tall building?
Or, no, in this current?
Oh, no.
Okay. Do we have more questions or a motion? Go ahead, Jackie.
I'd like to hear more about the language in the tall buildings implementation policy that was proposed and then removed. Do you have any more background on that?
Right. So at that time, the discussion was around if a building taller than 60 feet were approved by the electorate, then how, would that approval become stale at some point, or would that approval go on forever, or if it were denied, would it go on forever? That was the discussion around the previous charter amendment. And I'm reaching the cobwebs a little bit, but the discussion was a little bit about when a development comes, how long after approval would there be to build a building? Because, we all know it can take a long time, and things can crop up. So initially, there was language in the draft that said that the approval would be perpetual, and that was removed at the commission level.
Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Stanley.
But that, in that case, it pertains specifically to approval.
I don't remember if it was specific to approval, but I know it was, the wording was around perpetual. I could try to look back in the drafts, but I know that there was a timing issue with that draft, and the discussion was around whether it was one vote and done, and that decision would be perpetual. And the decision at the commission level was no, that wouldn't be the case.
Thank you.
Yep.
Do we have other questions or a motion? Heather?
In section B2, it says a proposed TIF plan shall be submitted to the city after all the necessary or required actions of the requesting entity have been completed according to the applicable statutory requirements up to the point of the city or city commission action. What are those applicable statutory requirements? Who's responsible for that?
Right, so it depends on where it's coming from. So each TIF plan has a different statutory requirement. For example, brownfield, DDA, and they're all a little bit different from one another, but similar that it would come from that entity. They go through their part of the process, and then it comes to the commission.
I see.
Yep.
Okay. Well, two. I think I have 3 or 4 things. I still continue to agree with Judy Nelson that the most important aspect of this entire policy is to make sure that voters understand what they're voting for. It seems a very small ask to insert into that preamble to be used for the purposes of blank as allowed. As in my notes from the last time we were looking at this implementation language, Raymond Minervini thought that that was just fine as long as the developer was able to approve that language. So it seems like a small ask to get that in there. I continue to think that the city attorney's summary is very literal on this repeated bringing back the plans over and over again, whether or not it's in the tall buildings or not. It's very literal, and it's just removing. Let's see. It gives residents the right to approve or reject the TIF plans, the charter does, but it doesn't grant the applicants an unlimited right to bring back identical measures. And that's basically what you're allowing here. And this unbounded right to reapply undermines voters' rights by fostering ballot fatigue and eroding trust in the process. And also, it just seems like a small ask to get that in there and say that the proposal may be resubmitted for subsequent election no sooner than 2 years following the most recent vote, unless it's substantially revised. I mean, it's just small. Then I want to address, Fred Bimber sent in a few things that seemed very reasonable, very reasonable. The first one was that the commission shall not consider a rejected proposal, or that the commission shall not consider a rejected proposal is counterproductive. And he feels that the commission should instead disprove it formally or take no action to protect the city from future claims. This seems like very sound procedure, and it's also a good risk management point, and it can help the city shield itself from claims of constructive approval. So again, it's an easy fix. You just, I don't know, let's see, how is that an easy fix? That's not a particularly easy fix. It would mean that we need to bring, if the voters vote something up or down, it comes back to the city commission for approval or disapproval. The second argument that Fred Bimber presented today in an email was the implementation policy that should explicitly state that it doesn't apply to TIF proposals arising by initiative or referendum. This is also an easy fix. It's just like a housekeeping fix. It's very minor, but it's very important because it could be read as inadvertently constraining or conflicting with voter-initiated measures. Very, very easy to fix, just exactly how Mr. Bimber presented it in his email. So those are 4 things. Getting that language in there about the purpose, very easy. Secondly, just adding in that it can come back exactly the same in 2 years, or it can be, unless it's substantially revised, easy fix. And then bringing proposals back to the commission if they've been approved or disapproved for the commission to approve or disapprove. And finally, just that housekeeping fix to make sure that that initiatives or referendums are treated differently.
Do you have other comments, a motion? Go ahead. Mai?
Just I very much value the input of all the community members who have shared their expertise and they're taken the time to give feedback about the implementation policy. I respectfully would submit that requiring substantial revision is vague, and working then through to define what would be a substantial revision could become a quagmire in and of itself. We've had this passed nearly a year ago, and we've had multiple conversations and discussions around how this could be implemented. There is nothing in here that's a gotcha. This is reflecting what over the last 8 years was the implementation policy for another recent charter amendment. We don't have charter amendments every day, thankfully. It's the constitution of our city, and making charter amendments to that raises all kinds of concerns. And we also have recognized that we are not going to satisfy all of the elements for all of the folks who have brought forward questions and concerns. That being said, I will make the motion that if the City of Traverse City implementation policy for Charter Section 28 TIF amendments be adopted.
Support. Thank you, Commissioner Stanley and Pro Tem Wilson. Okay, so now we've opened that up. Go ahead, Heather.
Well, I'll just respond to Commissioner Stanley's comment just now that, yes, we've been looking at this for over a year, but also for over a year, we have brought back those first two issues about repeated exactly the same plans coming before the voters, and also to get the purpose of the initiative on the ballot included in the ballot language. They've come back over and over and over again and have never been able to get through.
Mitch?
Yes. Well, I see no reason to put more stringent requirements on this implementation language than we have for another previous charter amendment that similarly affects a property developer or an entity that wants to move forward with a project, having to have a vote by the people before they can move forward. It seems the most parallel scenario that we have in our charter and in our operating documents as a city. Unless somebody can point to how through the past 8 years those implementation policies have been found to be substantively lacking, in which case, why haven't we amended them? Or how implementation language would have avoided some of the substantial litigation that has happened on both sides of the proposal from 8 years ago, which, again, I haven't seen.
Jackie?
Just wondering how many times since that tall buildings implementation policy was adopted, has it been invoked?
How many votes have we had? 2 or 3? We had at least 2.
Okay.
At least 2. Yeah,
Thank
one
you.
on State Street and one on Hall Street.
Thank you.
Well, yeah.
Go ahead.
I continue, for the sake of clarity and voter integrity, why not make these changes?
Commissioner Anderson?
I support the quest for more clarity and more transparency to the voter in terms of what it is that they're voting on. I think a few words about the purpose of the proposed plan would be in order. And I don't know if there's an opportunity to be sure that if there is a title for the ballot initiative, whether the term TIF or tax increment financing can be included in that title so that it's prominently identified as this is what you're considering. I really am searching for as much clarity as we can get within the constraints of space and readability.
I guess I would ask about that, because in the example given even by the our attorney, it's spelled out by the nature of the language, TIF or brownfield or others in the proposals. That would be the definition, or that would be the nature of what would be on the ballot, that people would have the opportunity not just to read at as they were voting, whether that's in the comfort of their home or at the ballot box, but also ahead of time as after the ballot is published, and several other opportunities. So that does not concern me as much. I will say the idea of limiting the number of times somebody can vote on it very much is problematic to me. We have housing projects that will now have to qualify for this if they want brownfield. And I know that we'd love to believe that it says right there for affordable or mixed use or mixed income in a project, or however it might be written on the ballot, but we don't know the minds of voters and what else might be on a ballot at a given time. I would hate to think that we would lose the opportunity to have some very important developments done in our community that would enrich and help people in our community, because they see something that they don't like, and the people then come back and want another bite at the apple, but not significantly changing their plan or having to wait 2 years to do a project. It's may or may not be likely to happen, but that is a possibility with brownfield being on the table. We also, as been pointed out, have other things that come before the people. I agree that fatigue could be there. That just works against those who would be bringing it forward with no changes. So that's limiting then what can be on a ballot that's not being paid for in a special election. Just doesn't seem to strike with democracy and the right to be on a ballot under the constitution of our city, essentially, our charter. And so there might be disagreement on that. But I would say that would be one thing that I have seen I hear the argument for it, but I just think as a whole, as operating, giving people the options that they're allotted, we don't put time limits on anything else and that goes on a ballot. So I would be hesitant to do it for anything like a TIF or a brownfield. So especially a brownfield. We have other comments? Heather?
As the parent of 6 children,
kudos.
Yep, you come and say, the kid comes and says, I want a lollipop, and I say no, and then he comes and says, I want a lollipop, and I say no, and then he comes 500 more times, or even 10 more times, and finally I give up and say yes. That's voter fatigue.
That is voter fatigue. However, in that scenario, and I hesitate to use this towards a parent, the governmental structure of a household is a little more totalitarian than democracy, though. They're not running a campaign in between. Those are questions, and so some parents I know will always say no.
Yes, but I feel like this has become politicized. Really all I'm looking for is clarity for the voter, transparency for the voter. It's not that I'm for or against what was voted for last year. It's just that in this moment, on this day, I'm looking for transparency and clarity.
And that's fair. That's what you're asking for. Jackie?
In terms of the additional bites of the apple, or lollipops, as you might say, I am very concerned that the approach to allow multiple opportunities to vote again and again and again on an identical proposal is protecting the rights of those who are applying for tax increment financing in favor of the rights of those voters who have expressed their opinions through the ballot box. I think that it gives more power and more priority to those who are applying for TIF than it does for the voters who have, by legitimate process, identified that they want control over this decision. So I think respecting the voters that have already spoken, we should be either offering one opportunity at the ballot box for proposals, or looking at a time increment at which it's possible that voter sentiment could have changed, or asking for some significant change in the proposal itself. And I don't see language around that being necessarily having to be vague. You know, it could be a change in the amount that's requested, a change in the timing that's requested, a change in the application for the funds. I mean, we could certainly narrow down those possibilities, I think, proactively to, you know, express our understanding of what would be a major enough change to warrant bringing it back to the electorate.
Mitch?
Well, on the point of not wanting voter fatigue or not wanting multiple times that the same proposal is brought back, I do find it curious that it's only being discussed in this narrow context, and we've got a community to the south of us, Mesick Public Schools, that has had the same millage fail 3 times and has now hired a consultant to see how they can get a bond millage actually pass. So they will be going for a 4th bite of the apple. If the concern is so strong about the process and not wanting bites of the apple, then why haven't those same voices that are opposing more bites here been standing up for the voters of Mesick Public School District? Why haven't they been lobbying a change to state law to prohibit that in other uses of an election? This is an ask that is not conforming with anything I've seen with any other provision in our charter or in state policy for elections that decide what money gets spent from the voters. Also, if it is felt that there's a desire for greater transparency and clarity in this language, those are vague terms, and I am more than open to better language if you can provide language from some other communities' implementation language that you feel is more transparent, has better clarity, and has had less legal recourse. I mean, has legal challenge afterwards. But we are the only community, to my knowledge, that has a charter requirement for TIF. So if you have language for some other charter required election, that would be something we could go on, but it might not stand on the same legal ground.
Jackie, you had your hand up.
Just a question, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't our own operating rules of the commission mandate a waiting period to bring back issues that have previously been voted on?
You can have no votes join you, though, and bring it back sooner.
Thank you.
So the one thing I would question, I guess I'm asking as we're having this discussion, is TIF specifically keeps being brought up. We know that a lot of this is surrounding downtown TIF, which expires in 2027. So that would be a potential vote in 2026 or 2027 if we're worried about the abuse of a failure and coming back. Brownfield would deal with property. So we're now talking about people applying for something on a property. Is the perception that somebody might hold on to a property for 5 years in a row and come back time after time after time again with the same plan and take those tax hits and everything else? I guess where I'm trying to figure out is this fatigue of, and making it sound like it would be, I think Heather used, again and again and again and again 3 or 4 times. But realistically, what are we looking at when you look at the confines of a TIF or a brownfield of the effort? You're talking about running a campaign, which costs money. You're talking about paying taxes on a property, unknown development. We already know that we've had 2 properties in the city decide to go to hotel by right instead of doing varied income apartment units in it that they were originally planning to do because they weren't sure where it stood on brownfield and didn't want to go to a vote, didn't want to deal with an election a year from now because they could start building by right now in a hotel. So I guess I'm kind of curious, other than the downtown TIF, which would be potentially 2 votes, where do we think this is coming from, that there's going to be this multiple bites by people for for TIFs or brownfields over many, many election cycles?
I don't know that I can presume to understand the priorities or the decision-making process for someone who applies for TIF financing. I think that would be beyond my ability to deal with a hypothetical. But I do believe that voters in our community have expressed through their approvals of charter amendments a desire for more input into decision-making and for having their input respected. And I believe that bringing identical proposals back without a required pause or without some level of modification is, at its heart, disrespectful to the initial vote.
I can't see them coming back, brownfield TIFs coming back over and over again. That doesn't seem reasonable. But city-initiated TIFs, like a corridor TIF, for example, certainly the DDA TIF, I can see those coming back over and over again, trying to get a different answer the next time around. I could see that would happen.
I could see that. I mean, that, I think we're getting to Jackie's point of we can't presume to know what people might think. I would say that having gone through the initial process of the TIF renewal that was, or the downtown TIF plan that was brought forward, and even the changes that were made to that, removal of parking deck, et cetera, before it was even brought to a vote, I would disagree, though, that I don't think a city body of any kind is going to say, put this forward, it votes, the vote gets shot down, and they're going to bring back the exact same thing. Those are our two varying opinions, and that's why prescribing it, I think, is being clairvoyant in one case and then saying you can't be clairvoyant in another. I completely agree with you, Heather, that I don't think a lot of people will take a second bite at the apple on a brownfield. We're talking property, we're talking a lot of money invested in a lot of projects, and there's workarounds for a lot of things. And so that is my hesitancy, though, of saying, yes, let's definitely include this language for this part, but the other things might just be getting into conjecture.
But again, why not take the precaution of just saying we need a cool down period or substantially change your
And that's
charter?
a differing opinion. Do we have any other questions or comments from the commission? Seeing none, I will open up for public comment, which I know we will have. So I'm going to let Sarah read the rules, and then we'll go.
Thank you, because I missed it the other
I know you
couple of
did.
times. We ask that you state your name and address, indicate if you're a city resident, non-city resident, and/or city business owner. We have a 3-minute time allotment per speaker. When your time has elapsed, the timer will beep, and finally, we request that all language be respectful to all parties. Thank you.
All right. Any public comment on this item?
Hi, Raymond Minervini with the Minervini Group. I think I hear some discussion here that seems like there's a little bit of a sentiment that's at cross purposes with the public benefit that's supposed to be part of any TIF plan. It seems to be there's an assumption that a TIF plan is something to be adversarial to or against rather than consider. I'd like to know, if we're deferring so strongly to the electorate, where's the discussion at the city commission level? In a normal situation like this for a brownfield in another community without a charter amendment, there would be a robust discussion at multiple different stops along the way for brownfield, for example, and then it would come to this commission for discussion. So there may be in the act of the process of bringing an application forward to having it voted and being denied by the electorate doesn't mean that the benefits, the qualities, and the aspects that are pursued and goals of our city would not be welcomed in another attempt to approve something worthwhile, a housing development rather than a hotel, for example. I think the voters are tough enough to handle checking a box twice in a row, in 2 elections in a row. If we want to talk about some of my recommendations before, I was looking for the City Commission to offer a resolution of support for a TIF proposal. And that's not in the current policy. Because I think the electorate owes a little, is owed an obligation from the City Commission to vet proposals that are going to be brought forward and have that opportunity to endorse or deny a recommendation. And that there should be a consideration for the City Commission. What if every commissioner is advocating on behalf of a project or a proposal, whatever the TIF corridor, whatever it may be, and then defer 100% to the electorate rather than exercising your authority to articulate to the public why you would support something. So I just feel like the electorate is tough enough to hear a couple of proposals, 2 votes in a row, or 2 elections in a row, and I think we're arguing over something from an adversarial point of view when we should be looking at it as a positive and could be very beneficial outcome for a TIF proposal. Thanks.
Thank you.
Justin Reed. So I kind of see the whole entire thing with the cons and pros about this. The pros being that it's democracy, and that the city commissioners went ahead and showed examples of pro about this, about why we don't need to change the language. To where a person who's saying that we should change the language has not shown a con to any of this. To where, you know, a con would be something that if it's an amendment that another city follows. No example of that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Judy Nelson, 429 South Garfield, city resident. Let me first of all address, I was involved in the tall building implementation plan. And I, like Lauren, can't, in the cobwebs, remember exactly what happened with Perpetual. But I will say that one of the reasons I have gotten involved in development of this policy is that there is confusion in the language of the tall building implementation plan that led to 2 or 3 of the lawsuits. And Commissioner Treadwell, Commissioner Stanley, but if you want to sit down and I can show you, take you through how that confusion ended up with the lawsuits that we had, that the city was involved with for years. So part of my reason for getting involved in this was in the hopes that we can avoid that kind of problem in the future. And yes, Commissioner Treadwell, maybe the old tall building implementation plan needs a relook. Going to this implementation plan for TIF, Heather, Commissioner Shaw and Commissioner Anderson have said a lot of what I provided in my comments. I think the language could be improved by adding purpose. There is actually a place at the very end, it's minor wording changes to allow a blank for the purpose. And I provided in my comments examples of the purpose for each type of TIF plan, brownfields, DDA, corridor, etc. It can be really succinct and brief, but you give the public more information. And that's the most important thing that we should be accomplishing with this policy, is to make sure that there's complete and clear understanding by the voter of what they're voting on. Second, I oppose the multiple, whatever you want to, repeated times. It just repeated identical proposals. It wastes time and money. It undermines previous elections. It fosters ballot fatigue. It erodes the public trust. One compromise that I suggested in my comments was that we have a pause period of 2 years for identical proposals. That compromise allows, though, substantial revisions. And I, Commissioner Stanley, defined in my comments substantial revisions.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
Fred Bimber, 1223 Randolph Street, city resident. About 6 weeks ago, this city commission voted unanimously to reject the proposed implementation policy, and now essentially the same thing is being brought back to us again. The comments by Commissioner Sean Anderson are spot on. More information should be given to voters when they're voting on something like this. And good examples can be found on the ballot almost every year. When some authority is asking for money, you know, they want to impose a tax, they want to raise taxes and raise money for something. We could use those as examples of ways of coming up with good information that lets the voters know much more clearly what they're voting on. I've also, in what I emailed the commission, pointed out a couple of other problems here. The city attorney has, in her analysis of this, assumed that all the proposals that come forward will be by some proponent of a TIF plan, a brownfield TIF or some sort of a district TIF. That's not necessarily true. City voters could get tired of this whole process and by initiative petition come forward with proposals that might, for example, call for terminating TIF 97 so we don't have to vote for it every year or every quarter. The language of this implementation policy is not at all oriented toward the issues that will be involved and that are different if we're proceeding by initiative or by referendum, which the city attorney has conceded is also possible here. The simple fix for that is what Commissioner Shaw pointed to in my materials. We just add a simple sentence that says this implementation policy does not apply to proposals brought forward by initiative or referendum. Months ago in this process, and this process has taken a while, it has not been the events that occurred at the City Commission. It has been all the time, the months between proposals. This first was brought forward in February. Then it was months. Then it was brought forward in April. Then it was August. Now it's brought forward here. It was early proposed, let me sit down with the city attorney and let's work this out. Somebody thought, oh, somebody would be trying to influence a city policy. Yes, I darn well would, but maybe we would have something that we could all look to and we could agree on right now. What should be done? There's no need to rush this before the November elections. What's going to change in the meantime? Set this for a study session and allow ample public comment.
Any further public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission. Okay, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Anderson?
No.
Commissioner Shaw?
No.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner Treadwell?
Yes.
Commissioner Werner?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilson?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Motion passes. We will now move on to new business.
The apple gets eaten in 4 bites.
Oh, yep, sorry. We have a request for a quick recess for facilities. Thank you.
Okay. The next thing? Oh, boathouse. When did the sunset?
Down there, it was the whole reading, not Ben's motion at the top, but the motion written slightly different, just like, are you okay with that?
We're going to bring it back to order in about a minute here. Oh, Heather's going to walk about now.
Come back.
A weird way.
Okay. I'm just going to ignore it.
Yeah. Let me see if I have that person in my.
Okay, we're going to call the meeting back to order now and begin with our first order of new business, which is the replacement of the tax/our boathouse roof and some solar panels. This is a project Commissioner Warner and I were just talking about on the break. I think it started 3 or so years ago we figured out. So this was actually originally on the consent calendar, but I asked we bring it off because it is something that has been worked on for a while, and sometimes we get told that things, people keep track of things and then lose that it actually passed. So we wanted to kind of highlight that this one is being brought forward today for some action and moving forward.
Thank you. I'll just make some introductory comments. We have Art Krieger here, who's our Director of Municipal Utilities. And so the city has a management agreement with Traverse Area Community Sailing to provide sailing classes and such at Hull Park. And this is before you, the request to replace the roof at the building that's used by TAX, Traverse Area Community Sailing, but owned by the city, because the roof is nearing the end of its life, and we are installing solar panels on the roof of that building in order to help power the wastewater treatment plant with solar-produced energy, or electricity, I should say. And so because that roof is nearing the end of its useful life, we just really don't think it makes sense to put solar panels on there and then very quickly, or within a couple of years, a few years, have to have them taken off and then replace the roof. So that's it sort of in a nutshell. And Mr. Krieger, if you have anything briefly to add, please do so.
Sure. Thanks. Thank you. Art Krieger, Director of Utilities with the city. Just one sideline on this project. It is a design build project that's taken quite some time to get off the ground. Initially, there was a large grant which the city accepted, and a lot of good things have been happening. Groundbreaking, actually, construction just started last month. There's a lot of finishing of the design that had to be done first, and lots of approvals, and Jacobs has been very involved on the day-to-day of the project. But I want to bring up a point. Initially, this roof was not considered. It's actually an alternate site, because during the design build process, one of the buildings that was thought to be okay to put solar panels on was one of the two water sewer maintenance buildings, but one of those is actually a former greenhouse with very little structural capacity to hold extra weight on the roof. So if we were to lose, and that has a large footprint for panels, so to lose that site, we didn't want to just take it away from the project. So we looked immediately around, and we found the tax building just adjacent to the property of the wastewater plant on the lake. So that's how it kind of came about, is hopefully to help replace some of the ones that we were going to lose on the maintenance building.
And the anticipated completion date for the solar project is roughly around the end of the year, right? That's what we're targeting.
That's the target date.
Right. Great.
We got a lot of ground to cover between now and then, but we still have time. And
that is our aim.
That is our aim. That's the target.
Great. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Art. Do we have questions about this? Or I'll take a motion. All right, got double hands. Whoever wants to go first. I'll let you fight it out.
I was a sailor once.
All right.
That the interim city manager to be authorized to issue a purchase order to Summit Point Roofing in the amount not to exceed $36,190, which includes a 10% contingency with funds available in the sewer fund 590.
Support.
I'm going to give that to Commissioner Anderson, since she was about to make the motion herself. So thank you, Commissioner Shaw and Anderson. Any further discussion on this from the commission? Go ahead.
Yeah, after I've made the motion. The solar panel, that building is facing south and north. So are they
Correct.
going on the south side? Is that-
Yes,
Okay.
we're planning to put them
sure.
just on the south side of the building.
Okay.
Roof.
Great, optimal space. Any other questions or comments? Looks like pretty supportive. I'm going to go ahead and open up for public comment now. Does anybody have any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thanks for that, Art, and
Thank you.
doing
Thank
all
you
that
very
work.
much.
We have faith in your ability by the end of the year. And next, we have another project in the works for a while here, our ethics ordinance being brought forward. I just wanted to say this was a big work. Thank you, first of all, to Commissioner Anderson, who I will hand this over to in a moment. But I did want to say that this is, we can definitely, if everybody's ready, we can vote on this today as it is. But it is for a possible action on October 20th, We have our study session next week as well, so if we get a lot of questions or comments in between, we can take some time tomorrow or next week to examine that, as well on the 20th when it comes back. So I just wanted to hand this over to Commissioner Anderson, but let the commission know it's not now or never. We've got some time to digest it because we've all been working on this for a couple of months now. So
Even more.
even
than
more
A couple of months.
than a couple of
Yes,
months. It started with
thank
some
you.
RIP the gobblers that we had at our first meeting. but I'll hand it over to Commissioner Anderson now.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And Mayor Shamro is exactly right that this has not only been a collaborative effort that involved major contributions from the city attorney, the city manager, outside subject matter experts, and Mayor Shamro, Commissioner Treadwell, and myself, who have tried to very thoughtfully pull together an ethics code that incorporates guidelines not only for city employees, but also for elected and appointed and volunteer city officials. And we are hopeful that this is going to be a step that will enable us to create a culture of ethics and ethics awareness that perhaps hasn't been part of our prior experiences. So our little ethics ad hoc was appointed back in February of this year, and now we finally reached the point for possible commission action. Our decision tonight is going to be whether to introduce an amendment to our code of ordinances that establishes a specific ethics ordinance, and it schedules it for possible enactment at our next regular meeting on October the 20th. So that's the recommendation that you'll see in the packet. However, that said, we do seriously desire input from everyone here as well as the public on any changes that you think would enhance what's proposed here, and we can then, have more conversation about it and be ready with a final draft for October 20th. So let's see if the clicker is working. Yay! All right, so highlights of the proposed ordinance include the purpose. And in my mind, it is a reminder to everyone associated with city government to place public service ahead of service to themselves. This ordinance is intended to shield the public interest from unethical actions, but it is never intended to be used as a sword to attack others unfairly or politically. I see this as a critical step in trust building between our city government and our community. So who is impacted? Everyone. All of our public servants, elected, appointed, and employees. It is grounded in the concept of fiduciary duty, which is to place city interests above self-interest, to act with good faith, with loyalty, and with trust, and it emphasizes the service that we owe to our community. It does set specific standards and expectations for ethical behavior, as well as processes to disclose possible ethical issues and enforcement of the code. So let's dive into the details a little bit more. Ethical standards that we've incorporated in the ordinance thus far fall rather neatly under 8 different categories. The first one being conflict of interest. And this is defined as either a direct or indirect financial interest that by the outcome of a decision could be impacted. Disclosures in writing will be made at, on the record at an open meeting. The consequence of a conflict of interest is recusal from discussion and voting on any related proposal. Impartiality is defined as avoiding actions that result in or appear to create preferential treatment. The lack of impartiality or damaging public confidence in government integrity is, of course, the negative consequence of impartial behavior. Thirdly, the improper use of position. If an individual were exceeding their authority or seeking privileges or interfering with law enforcement or seeking favors, all of those would be considered under this category. Incompatible offices would be where an individual might hold two offices, two positions, for instance, that report to each other or supervise each other, or serving on two public boards that have contracts between them. Nepotism, close relatives of elected or appointed officials are disqualified from holding appointed office. Again, we're hoping for clarity of decision-making and impartiality. Confidential information cannot be shared with an unauthorized person or before public release. This would be an example of a breach of fiduciary duty. The use of public property, it will only be used as authorized and not for personal benefit. And then media relations, where an individual cannot represent their personal opinions as being the official opinions or positions of the city. So the process is also defined within this draft ordinance. The ad hoc committee felt strongly that an annual disclosure statement was going to be a valuable way to elevate awareness of our ethical standards on a regular basis. So the intent is that at the start of each fiscal year, every elected, appointed, and employed individual will disclose in writing their financial interests with entities that either have sought contracts or sought licenses from the city in the last 2 calendar years. I think this is just a best practice in terms of it being a regular reminder of our commitment to behaving ethically. Enforcement is, again, in an attempt to maintain this, set this up as an impartial process, a neutral third-party arbiter is to be recommended by the city attorney and approved by the city commission to serve for a calendar year. Complaints to the arbiter would be in writing and signed. The arbiter has the power to investigate, seek information or documents, request input or witnesses, hold a public hearing, and issue a final decision. A complaint may be filed up to 30 days after an incident, with a final decision by the arbiter reached, after 15 days for rebuttal and up to 45 days for an informal review process. 90 days after receipt of the complaint, the arbiter may call for an enforcement hearing. So it is an attempt to balance timeliness of a complaint with enough time and due diligence invested to be able to reach a reliable resolution. And then finally, there are penalties incorporated within the language of the ordinance that, of course, we defer to the terms of collective bargaining agreements, So this would not impact that. But violation of the city ethics ordinance could involve disciplinary actions up to and including termination. There are also possibilities that there could be findings by the arbiter of civil infractions or misdemeanors, and those would be referred to district court. So here's the best part, which is I want to hear from you. I want to find out which elements of this may be sticking points for you, which ones you can support wholeheartedly, and help us to reach a consensus here. I did receive some early feedback to the packet materials from Commissioner Shaw, and so maybe we can begin with your input and see if that generates some more conversation. Does that sound? Yes. Lauren.
Can I just add one thing?
Please.
There are a few blank spaces, so that's intentional to allow for input, because the ad hoc didn't really land on a couple of issues. For example, ultimately penalties. There's sort of a menu in the end of the last section, and the ad hoc determined that they weren't really ready to land on that. They wanted to hear from everybody as to what penalties would be acceptable to the group. So, I mean, it really could be anything from, a resolution of censure or no action, all the way to a misdemeanor type of an action. So, so that was intentional, that's not really nailed down completely.
Yes. Thank you very much, and please, if there's anything else that I missed along the way on that summary, I hope you'll let me know. Okay, so one of the issues that had already been raised was what happens in case of a complaint regarding the city attorney? And Lauren and Benjamin, maybe one of you could explain that.
Sure. So in that instance, it would be, we would suggest that the city manager would recommend the arbiter to the city commission for approval, just like the opposite way would be true. So that would be, that impartiality would be maintained in that instance.
And that's in the ordinance draft now, that's the case, right?
Yep.
Correct. Correct. And does the use of a third-party arbiter rule out any civil or criminal actions? In my reading of it, I didn't think it did, but maybe this is one of the menu of options points.
Right. I think that ultimately the point of the arbiter is to allow a neutral third party to investigate and figure out kind of what the facts are, and then they would come with a recommendation. And so that recommendation could be to pick from that menu of enforcement options, whatever the city commission wants to ultimately put into the ordinance for the enforcement piece of it.
Can I have some help from you in terms of the balance of privacy and potential for reputational risk in the event of a complaint, balanced with our commitments to transparency and open meetings and so forth?
Sure. So really, I'm really glad that you mentioned the idea of it being a shield and not a sword, because that's really, really important in all of this, that it not be sort of used to gain advantage on some sort of an issue instead of being used for its real intended purpose. And so that's sort of the point of having the arbiter have that back and forth at the beginning of their process, where they take the initial complaint. The individual that's being complained about would have the opportunity to rebut the complaint in writing to the arbiter, and then the complainant would have an opportunity to respond to that rebuttal. And then the arbiter has a chance to look at everything and make a decision whether is there something there. That process was modeled after what the Michigan Department of Civil Rights does when there's a complaint under their purview. they do the same sort of process, and then they have the opportunity to sit down with the two parties and do a conciliation meeting, which is also included. So I tried to sort of model that on something that exists already and has been around for quite a long time. And that allows the opportunity for that fact-finding to occur, and then even sort of if there's an opportunity for a meeting of the minds of the complainant and the individual. And if that all doesn't work, that will take some time. But if that all doesn't work, then there's a public process for a public hearing to occur, and then sort of get to the root of it at that time. So, which also is what happens with Department of Civil Rights as well. So I sort of tried to model it on something that that we know exists, and something that gives, because we all know anybody can file a complaint or a lawsuit about anything, right? And it doesn't mean that it has merit, but then maybe damage is done already. So we wanted to provide for an opportunity to sort of be able to suss out those complaints and see if there's merit to it before going to a hearing, and have the arbiter, that neutral person, take that role in that process. Does that help?
Yes, it does. And then, let's see, Commissioner Shaw had mentioned the standards of conduct for public employees and officers, and whether there was any inherent conflict between this ordinance and policy and process and that state law. And I think the conclusion was
Right.
not.
No, it's not. The state law that you asked about, Commissioner Shaw, applies to state employees. And so it's consistent with the language in the proposed ordinance, but that law doesn't apply to city employees.
So, yes.
I have a hypothetical, and it has to do with the ordinance right now says you have 30 days to make a complaint. Let's say that I see something which makes me go, whoa, what was that? But I don't do anything about it because I'm not sure. And 30 days go by, and then I see it again. And then I decide that I think I did see something, and I want to bring it to the wherever it goes. Yeah, I want to make a written complaint. Am I allowed to bring up that I saw this 30 days, 2 months before, or am I only allowed at that point to talk about what happened in that initial 30 days?
That's a really interesting question. I guess that sort of gets to the scope of what the arbiter is going to be looking at. Boy, you could get into a deep discussion about, evidence rules.
Exactly. Well, that's why I wondered if 90 days wouldn't be better.
That's totally within the discretion of the city commission, that
Gives you
timeline.
some time to process and before you jump to conclusions.
And if I can say, I really appreciate you bringing that up, because I think in the case that you mentioned, of course, we have rules of evidence, but it's a little different when you're going to arbiter versus a judge. That second act would have been within that period of time and allowed it, but 90 days, we know that certain things to report can take some time, maybe some confidence building if it's something more serious. So I think that's not a bad suggestion. We don't want people going back, 3 years and reporting well, maybe we do, but maybe that's a different process. But hopefully under these new rules, as Commissioner Anderson has pointed out, making this more transparent will make the staff feel a little bit better about coming forward if there is something, and trusting in a new process. So I like the idea of a little larger window there.
90 days sounds good to me.
Great.
So do we need a motion to be able to continue to get comments from the commission and the public, or how should we handle this?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea, just so we have the draft we're working from. We can always revise it and have it come back. But so the motion will be for the introduction, but we also know we can make amendments and suggestions between now and a vote on the 20th. So I would take that right now. If somebody would like to make it, go ahead, Jackie.
I move that an amendment to the Traverse City Code of Ordinance to Chapter 225 Ethics which establishes the ethics ordinance, be introduced and scheduled for possible enactment on October 20th, 2025.
Support.
All right, thank you, Commissioners Anderson and Treadwell. And we'll go ahead and include that suggested amendment already.
Yeah, I'm taking notes, so.
Yes.
Thank you. All right.
Commissioner Treadwell?
Yes, and we are moving forward with this discussion. We do now have a motion on the table that would have it enacted at our next regular meeting, which is before the election. But it is still on the ballot and ultimately up to the voters whether a charter amendment is approved that would require the city to have an ethics ordinance. Though I think the fact that we already have language and are in a position to approve it shouldn't be seen as going above and ahead of the voters and whether they choose to approve it or not, because we as a city commission have created an ad hoc that created a draft document for an ethics ordinance, and the charter amendment is an opportunity for the voters to say if this is something that is valued enough by the broader community of Traverse City to incorporate it in our city's constitution, rather than just a document that we can create, but we can also amend or choose to entirely dispose of.
For that, Sarah, I'm going to look to you, maybe somebody else, put you on the spot. What proposal number is the ethics one? 3, that's what I thought. So proposal 3, it states not for these exact rules, because ordinances can be living and breathing things, that we will have an ethics ordinance, so as a city. So whatever that may look like, this one, 5 years from now, somebody might completely overhaul it, but it won't allow them to ever get rid of an ordinance. So to kind of clarify that. So vote yes on proposal 3. I'm not supposed to say that, but.
Is that an ethics violation?
It might be an ethics violation in the future. But go ahead, Jackie. Sorry, I didn't want to take the floor from you completely, but.
Simply going to reiterate that point, that the ballot initiative is to mandate that we have an ethics ordinance. The specifics of the ordinance itself are handled through this process at the commission level.
Go ahead, Heather.
I have another hypothetical, well, I don't know if it's hypothetical. This is in the annual disclosure statement, section 225.13, which you must disclose if you have contracted with the city or sought licensure or approvals from the city. So if I, as a property owner, ask for a building permit, I must disclose that. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I'd just like to comment on section D of that. First of all, there's a typo in there. And second of all, the 5% or $10,000, whichever is less, it follows SEC recommendations. So I would recommend that.
Great.
What other comments and input do we have? Benjamin.
And I just mentioned this to the city attorney just now, but as the city commission knows, but the public may or may not be aware, the police chief reports to the city manager and serves at the city manager's pleasure. And I think that there should be, this is a concept for us to work on, but I think that there should be something clear that the city manager is required to adopt as a policy, that if there's some sort of, and I don't have all the words for it, but if there's some sort of criminal issue involving the city manager, that the investigation shall not be handled at all by the Traverse City Police Department, that it should be handled by some other law enforcement agency, so that if, like, say the city police responded to an issue at my home, let's say, that as soon as possible, they're required to turn that over to another agency. And I just think, yeah, I don't have it all fleshed out, and I know the city manager is required to adopt those things, but the city commission can direct the city manager to do some of that stuff, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, great point. Play. Mitch?
Yeah, and to that language, I would like to be as vague as possible in saying what the other agency is, because then we wouldn't risk getting into an involved in something if it also was connected to the Grand Traverse County or Leelanau County Sheriff's Department, which also service the city.
Good point, yeah.
Yes, except I would almost say that I'd like there to be, maybe we discuss the host of options, because it
Mhm.
also can't, I would hate for it to be too vague of,
Yes.
oh, well, I handed off to this, like, I think it would be safe to identify actually county prosecutor, county sheriff, and maybe, certain specific entities, so
Mhm.
we're not kind of creating, or Michigan State Police, some of these broader or overarching ones, or maybe it's Michigan State Police and the prosecutor. We can talk about that more and think about it, but I'd like to be there to be a clearer path, so it also doesn't, I don't know, I grew up here, oh, so-and-so has an ethics violation, so we're gonna call somebody, that person is the neighboring sheriff, that's their best friend. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's good to have, maybe, look at it how objective we could be and have a path for a handoff that's maybe slightly flexible, but also defined, so.
We'll look at the police department's policies as well, because it's very likely that they've got one already.
That's a fair point.
But we'll talk about that more internally and figure that out.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Heather.
Yeah, I'd just like to make 3 suggested additions to this ordinance, which I also sent to Benjamin and Lauren and Jackie earlier. One, that the arbiter file a report annually, summarizing how many complaints have come in and their nature, and without disclosing any kind of personal information. That would be one. That the second one would be that the city commission review this ordinance in the next 12 months or before, to see how effective it is, what the workload has, what kind of workload has resulted from this ordinance, and the enforcement outcomes. That would be 2. And the third one would be that everybody, it's like the blood-borne pathogen thing you have to sit through every year, which everyone hates. But I'm sure you can find a way to make it interesting, like this came up last year and this is what happened. But that everybody has to sit and take a 15-minute ethics ordinance review course. Yes.
I appreciate your comment on that, as somebody who just had to do the bloodborne pathogen
Yes,
one
it's like,
twice in a row
oh,
for the
God,
same job.
Gotta find a better way. We don't need any vomit, but we can
It's question, I guess I would say, to the request that it be a year review. I don't think seems very reasonable. Would that be something we would include then in the final motion for around the 20th? It doesn't have to be in the ordinance itself, correct? Okay. So we'll have that reflected in that motion and come the next business meeting. Other thoughts?
Can I put you on the spot for a second? What is everyone's thoughts? No, generally. No, not just you. Do people have thoughts about the penalty section? What's your comfort level as far as penalties go? I won't hold you to it, but I'm just thinking it'll be easier for me to revise and bring you something back that's easier to discuss, maybe if we narrow it down a little bit.
I'll say when I'm looking at it, the penalty section right now in what I got, I mean, obviously, we had robust discussions about it, but when I'm looking at what I got through iCompass, there's not a lot of like highlighting of where we're looking for things to be filled in. So maybe, obviously if people have ideas right now, but maybe that's a bit of a homework assignment of maybe sending us that section with the highlighted portions and maybe even menu of options that are legal for us to examine, everything from a reprimand to possible criminal, misdemeanors. If we could get that sent to us, I think that would probably help us guide the conversation a little bit. Go ahead.
And the better that we're aligned with existing personnel policies.
Very true. Mark?
I agree with that, but, and then also looking at C1 under penalty, because it's kind of subjective with maybe subject.
Yep.
I need to be more stern than that.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I saw 2 things.
go ahead.
One is in J, that the current language prohibits bad faith threats, but it doesn't define frivolous complaint consequences, so maybe you want to take a look at that one. And that in H, hearings are public even before probable cause, so you've got some reputational harm risk in there. So you might want to say, the hearing shall be open, you know, I don't know, you can, there's definitely you want to preserve your transparency, but you don't want to risk premature exposure.
Mm-hmm. Good notes from our editor on staff. We appreciate that. Other thoughts right now, Jackie?
Shall we open it up for public comment?
I think if everybody's exhausted, I think we've had some good ones. So absolutely. Let's open up for public comment. Judy's been an active aid for us on this, so it's much appreciated.
Thank you. Judy Nelson, 429 South Garfield, city resident. I think this ethics ordinance is a massive improvement over what you have existing. And it's really been sorely needed for quite a while. And as Mayor Shamrow said, I attended some of the ad hocs, not all, but some. And I think the committee really tackled a difficult issue, especially when it gets to how to self-report and enforcement. And they've done a good job. And, you know, hats off to the committee and especially to Lauren, who's been doing a lot of the drafting and work. So you need to be complimented for that. It's not perfect, I'm sure, but that's okay. It's important that you do something in this area to increase public trust, and you can learn from it. And reviewing it in a year is a great idea. I apologize to the committee members, but I'm going to repeat a couple of my comments from the ad hoc meeting. Disclosure is really important. Transparency really builds public trust. And in my opinion, if there is a conflict, at least among commission members, they should be recusing themselves. I have to say that I've watched this, and in my experience, it is rare to have a change in the outcome because somebody had to recuse themselves. It doesn't happen. So there shouldn't be any concern about that. The public perception of actual and perceived conflicts is the most important thing. It's that public perception that you're trying to build on and create public trust. These rules are going to require a culture change, especially throughout the organization. And I'm looking at Lauren and Ben for that because they're going to have to lead it. And that's hard. It's really hard. But it's important. So it's important that you cover these requirements in training sessions, which I think somebody mentioned, in emails, in various other means, just to reinforce the ethics requirements over and over. And to get that also to the commissions and boards that are appointed, as well as throughout the organization. I want to say thanks as a member of the public for your doing this. And you can make some changes, but I do recommend that you do pass this on October 20.
Thank you. Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
Well timed, you were done.
Any other public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back. Any last thoughts from the commissioners? I would say if, Lauren's going to send out her notes on it. Obviously, we cannot reply all, but people can also send comments to Lauren ahead of the 20th, and that would give time to include it in our packet for the 20th, as well as give her some time to research if anybody has any outstanding questions or thoughts and want to make sure that it's legal as we're doing an ethics policy. So, Jackie, any final thoughts?
I think you summarized it well. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for all the hard work on that, and I look forward to our next discussion of it. With that, I did call a vote.
You didn't call it yet.
Thank you.
Thinking you did.
I was like, I didn't call the vote, did I? Sorry. So much discussion. All right, so the vote, just for the record, as I'm reminding myself, is we're introducing it for possible enactment on the 20th. We will have more discussion then. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, thank you all. Thank you for the robust conversation. So moving on to item 3, which is being brought forth by Interim City Manager Benjamin Marentet, that we recognize Indigenous Peoples Day. So I'll let you lead with that.
Yes, thank you. As indicated in your packet, I'm recommending that the City Commission amend the ordinance that officially establishes holidays to recognize Indigenous Peoples Day. This would be starting in 2026, and it would wait until 2026 because of the timing of introduction and enactment. Next week is Indigenous Peoples Day. We do have a City Commission meeting scheduled for it, which is October 13th. But I think that it's really important to do this. It will mean that, again, City Commission meetings would not be held on that day. They'd be held on the following day if one's needed. It does not, at this point, grant another holiday to city employees. But I think it's important to recognize the day, to recognize the strength and resilience of Indigenous communities since European ships first arrived in North America in 1492, and it's also a time to celebrate the cultures, traditions, and contributions of Native people in the U.S. today. And so I wholeheartedly recommend that you introduce this ordinance. There's a motion in your packet to do so, and it would schedule it for possible enactment on October 20th.
Do we have any questions, or does someone want to make the motion? Go ahead, Heather.
Thank you very much, Interim City Manager, for bringing this to us. I can't believe that it hasn't been here before. I move that an amendment to the Traverse City Code of Ordinances, City Commission meetings, which no, is that it?
Yes.
Which clarifies on which holiday regular meetings shall be moved to the following day and adds Indigenous Peoples Day to such holidays, be introduced and scheduled for possible enactment on October 20th, 2025.
All right, thank you, Mark.
And if I may just offer, and apologies for not catching this before, but it should be on which holidays City Commission meetings shall be moved, because the regular meetings would never be that second Monday anyway. So just City Commission meetings rather than regular meetings.
Okay. Do we all agree to that amendment? Okay. Great.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. No. Any further discussion from the commission on this? Seeing none, any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right. Thank you for bringing that forward, Benjamin. I very appreciate that. Under appointments, we have one, and that is the Ethics Ad Hoc. We are running out. Hopefully, we don't need to meet again. Based on this conversation, it seems unlikely, but just in case something pops up between now and the 20th, this would allow us to still meet and convene as an ad hoc. So any questions about that, or does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion that the City Commission Ad Hoc Committee on Ethics Regulations be reestablished, consisting of members Mayor Amy Shamro, Commissioner Jackie Anderson, and Commissioner Mitch Treadwell, with Commissioner Jackie Anderson as chair, with the committee to expire February 16th, 2026.
Support.
Okay, I'm going to give that to Commissioner Warner. Probably because you're closest and I could hear you best. All right, so any further discussion on this? Seeing none, any public comment on this? Seeing none, I will bring it back. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you all for that. And now on to reports and correspondence. Does anybody have any reports from their respective boards? Go ahead, Jackie, and then Heather.
Just a summary of items that are on the agenda for tomorrow's Planning Commission meeting. One of the proposals before the commission is removing density limits in hospital, NMC, and hotel resort districts. In addition, conditional rezoning, and the approach to that is under discussion, whether our zoning code should remain silent on the option for conditional rezoning, or whether it should specifically prohibit conditional rezoning. And then the commission is being asked to approve locations and times proposed for public office hours to be conducted by planning department staff. in addition to that, a very interesting summary of progress on the goals and objectives that the Planning Commission set for itself for the year is in the packet. And I think that if you have questions about things like status of the riparian buffer zone and things like that, you'll find that information there. Also, an important point seems to be that any action on short-term rentals, i.e. adjusting the percentages allowed in certain commercial and development districts for short-term rentals in multi-unit buildings, is it's in our court. And so we need to have further discussion and resurrect that for conversation. So that's it.
Thank you. Heather, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I'm reporting on the Safe Harbor meeting from last week. Jackie was there as well. There were about 20 people there, all the usual suspects. Safe Harbors, well, the task force reported there are about 250 individuals in our city. That's about the same number as we've always had around here. They say we need 30 more shelter beds. We need 175 permanent supportive housing units. Safe Harbor says that over the summer they were turning away 6 to 10 people every night, although, and this is my opinion, that may drop drastically as our temperatures drop. Safe Harbor said that they had considerable volunteer challenges over the summer because people have family in town. I have heard that same problem from Jubilee House. And finally, Hull Park has the highest rate of calls and the most tickets. Chief Richmond spoke at length about what he cannot do and what he can do there. After the meeting, which was about 7 o'clock, 7:30, by the time I got out of there, I took my dog on a walk in Hull Park. There was a loud group outside the tax building. 2 men were sleeping on the lawn in front of the library. There were 2 more on a lake platform, also listening to music through a boombox, and there were several more wandering around. And this is with everybody else that was there. There were lots of people there, bikes and joggers and babies. It was 7:30 by the time I got out of there, which made me wonder where those people were going to sleep that night. Something that I wasn't aware of is that you can actually access what the task force is up to by going to their website, which is housingandhomelesstaskforce.org.
Thank you for that. And I thank you for the update on the website, too. I don't think I realized that either, so appreciate that. Any other reports from anyone? Okay. Seeing none, I will now move to, I think I'm remembering this in the right order, general public comment. So if you have a comment on anything from tonight or anything in general under the sun, please feel free to make your comments.
Richard Robbins from the Grand Traverse Safe Streets Alliance. Hi, guys. Back from a vacation, and just a quick little advice is don't go to 3 different countries with crappy weather in a row. It doesn't work well. So anyway, we're back, and I got to say, my wife and I got back on Friday. We went out on a bike ride, and wow, we went from the Traverse City Library to West End Grill, never on a road, all the way up. It is phenomenal. I mean, and I know the board or the city isn't necessarily responsible for all of that trail, but we are making such great progress in this city relative to multimodal transportation and ability to be able to get out of our cars and help the environment, and also healthier lives, as well as just decongesting our roads. So that it's really great. It's a huge success. But there's a warning. The tourists are coming, and infrastructure will be more important than ever. 3 key examples is, the idea of establishing a PACER rating for painting. We do it for streets. Why don't we do it for painting, so that we don't get into the problem we had before? And that's, when these tourists come, and I'm telling you, we're going to become a biking destination even greater than we are now because of these improvements, is the idea of a PACER rating to make sure that we have clear, safe lanes. So it's a kind of a concept to kind of talk through with the streets group and with Benjamin, it's a thought we've been kind of thinking through. Also, destination infrastructure. Examples, we're going to need robust bike and bicycle racks and corrals at destinations, because you got to have safe places for people to put their infrastructure, and also defined and publicly understood, defined or delineated multimodal transportation corridor. We've been talking about this idea of a 2x4 vision. I think the idea of having it on the wall over here, and so that everyone knows what the planning, the streets, and the engineering department, what they're building to. Because this is a sales job, guys. In order for the people to be confident that the city's moving in the right direction, sometimes it's a sales job, and sometimes that public relations is really important. So I would really encourage that. And lastly, we provided the city manager, Benjamin, some suggestions. Sorry, it had to be last minute, but via email for tomorrow's ad hoc committee meeting. And so we're looking forward to that. It's going to be a great meeting. So anyway, thank you so much, and I'm back in town, so good to see everyone.
Welcome back, Richard, and just to let you know, I know painting is on our study session for next week, and I see the interim city manager taking furious notes about your PACER rating suggestions, so we'll look forward to that. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hello. My name's Justin Reed. I would like to mention in that, talking about biking, is so going southbound on Veterans Drive, between Fairlane, just before Fairlane, there is vegetation that is coming up across into the shoulder of the bike lane. So if I'm going on Veterans Drive and I'm going past the condominiums that are on the right, going up the hill, this is still within the city limit, but there's vegetation that is coming across there, so I have to go into the travel lane off from the bike lane there. And
Where exactly is this? I'm sorry.
So this is up on the hill on Veterans Drive, going southbound if you're going from 14th to South Airport Road. So it's
okay.
yeah. So, and I've given this information to Frank DeTuri, and also there is a sign that is ran over off Red and Silver Drive. So up there, right there where the curve is and the barns are at. So there's a stop sign that has been partially ran over. And that's been submitted to Frank DeTuri. And on the website for you guys, it says report problem. Well, to report problem is to call the streets department. I kind of wish that the streets department would have the same thing like the county road commission would have, where it has ArcGIS or something like that, or you can get a map and you can go ahead and put it down on that map and fill out the information that's saying the name of the issue and what it is.
That's good.
So, maybe something that, talking to the county road commission, something that can be implemented with the streets department.
We'll look into that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other public comment? Okay. Oh, yes, go ahead. Deputy City Manager.
Deputy City Manager Deb Allen. Actually, Justin and I are going to meet right after the meeting ends. I'm going to show him on the city's website that we have exactly what he's talking about. There's actually an opportunity where you can go on, report a concern, a traffic concern, and you can put that dot right on that map. So we got you covered, Justin.
Great.
Thank you. Thanks, Deb.
Thanks for the PSA, Deb. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back. Any final comments from the commission? Go ahead, Heather.
Bridge Magazine ran an article a couple of weeks ago pointing out that there's been a 5-fold increase in seawalls, riprap, and hard armoring along the state's Lake Michigan coast since 2014. 5-fold increase. Michigan State University warns that this cuts off lake access and worsens erosion. In all, 19%, 69 miles of our west coast is now hardened. Whoa. So I hope that the riparian buffer ordinance that's now in its 5th year is reaching its completion date.
Thank you. It's a very good information to share for us.
Putting
Anybody
on
else?
my other hat with a fish update.
Okay.
The salmon are running in the river, especially with the change in weather, colder conditions, and a little bit of rain today has really helped them. They weren't doing so well when it was so hot, but we still harvested over 3,000 fish in the past 2 weeks, and we're doing our next harvest on Wednesday morning.
Thank you so much, Mitch, for our fish update. Anybody else? Seeing none, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Everybody have a wonderful rest of your evening.